I am so happy today to have Martin Lockett here. Martin, thanks for coming. I'm really excited to talk to you today.
My pleasure. No,
Yeah,
thank you so much for having me.
yeah, you have a lot of like titles and cool things. You have a book here. You're an author. Um, you're a speaker. Uh, your title I have here, Director of Cultural Engagement for Lines for Life,
hmm
which seems really important. We were talking a little bit before the recording about that. Um, but yeah, a lot to talk about here. And Kristen's here to co-host. I always forget to plug your show, so I'm going to
Thanks
try
for
to plug
having me.
or listen to Rational in Portland. It's audio most of the time, so go listen
The
to that.
last episode has you on it.
That's
Actually, a
right.
lot of
Yeah,
the most recent ones, but the last one does too.
yeah. So go check that out. She's got the mug. I'm jealous.
Yeah, yeah. It's a
Um,
gift. I gotta make you one.
yeah. I just wanted to, I guess, start at the beginning. I just found your story super inspirational. All your posts and your Instagram stuff, I just find super inspirational. I think you're an amazing speaker. like, uh, I think you just reach people in a way that's really cool. So, but yeah, I just wanted to like I've heard your story a couple times, but I wanted you to tell the audience that. I just think it's a amazing story. So,
Yeah, thank you for that. So I grew up here in Northeast Portland in the 80s, and I can say it was very, very different then. I mean, I know we have the whole, keep Portland weird and naked bike rides and all that stuff. It was not that in the 80s.
No.
It was a much different scene. It was very much I liken it to a war zone, right? I mean, there were gangs coming up from California fighting for territory. It was the height of the crack epidemic. Drive-by shootings were rampant. There was open prostitution on Union Avenues, now Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. I mean, it was just not a safe place, and so my parents really tried to do everything they could to shield, my siblings and me from the chaos. We were in Little League and wrestling and Cub Scouts and all the things, and so I had a very normal childhood in that sense. Things changed for me, however, when I got to high school because I was terribly, terribly shy. And so
Where did you go?
so I went to Grant. Went to Grant in '93, and so I kind of just latched on to guys who happened to live in my neighborhood, but I had, never met them, probably because my parents tried to keep us from them. But this became my crew, and so we started, hanging out and drinking alcohol and smoking weed and cigarettes, and got into stealing cars and things like that. So, um, over the next couple years, I noticed that my drinking, initially I was drinking just to kind of, be more sociable and open up at parties and talk to girls and things like that. But over the couple years of doing that, it really turned into something darker, I would say, because I was really struggling with a lot of internal conflicts about my identity as a black kid growing up in Oregon, and like looking at my white counterparts who lived in that Hollywood district, and like they had manicured lawns and they got an Acura when they turned 16, and their
right.
dad wore a suit on a Tuesday and worked downtown, and so it was a very different world, but I'm close to it because I'm going to school with these kids, and so I'm looking at them like the symbol of success and what life should be like, and things were just very different for me and everybody who looked like me. And so that led to a lot of internal conflicts around my identity and things like that. And I didn't feel that I could talk to my parents or anybody for that matter about what I was feeling. So alcohol was how I coped. And so I became a severe alcoholic. And then that takes us into the crux of my story now, which is on New Year's Eve of 2003. I had been drinking all day and partying all night, and at 1:03 a.m., I sped through a red light on MLK in Fremont and crashed into a car, killed two people, severely injured a third person. And so I am booked on 2 counts of manslaughter in the first degree, assault in the second degree, and then 3 misdemeanor DUI related charges, and ultimately took a plea bargain for 17 and a half years, measure 11, so no time off for good behavior or, working a
Right,
job or
right.
getting an education or anything like that. But then that's when things really changed for me, in the best way possible, frankly. So,
Just so people understand, what's a Measure 11 crime for people who don't know?
Yeah, so it's a mandatory minimum sentence that the judge has to give you. It's really out of the judge's hands once you're convicted of. It's considered a violent person-to-person crime. So your assaults, your robberies, your kidnappings, your sexual assaults, manslaughter, murder, things like that are all mandatory day-for-day sentences. So if you get sentenced to 10 years under Measure 11, you're going to do 10 years, 120 months.
And then for some of those crimes, do you need a previous criminal history?
No, you could be a first-time offender. In fact, so when it was passed into law, I want to say in 1994,
I know it was in the 90s
94,
somewhere.
Crime
95.
bill days.
It was
yeah.
around the whole get tough on crime
Mhm.
and the Clinton crime bill, which
Yeah.
funneled a ton of money into
And Joe
states
Biden.
to
Yeah.
right, yeah, who supported that as well. But to incentivize, the construction of prisons with mandatory minimum, the truth in sentencing, as they say,
Mhm.
laws, and so that was when Measure 11 came about. And if you were 15 or older, you could be tried as an adult. And so with the Measure 11 sentence, in fact, one of my cousins was one of the first ones to get
Wow.
charged with, one of the first ones, months after it was enacted. One of the first ones, he and two or three of his friends were in a fight by the Lloyd Center
Mm.
and were charged with Measure 11 and convicted and sent to
Wow.
McLaren with 6-year sentences.
And was that, I was curious, like when that happened to you, was it just like being an alcoholic at that age? Was it just a 180 turnaround of just like you couldn't drink at all at that point, and that
So when I got locked up, you
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it was tough, but honestly, I'll be honest with you. So when I knew that I was a severe alcoholic, right? My girlfriend at the time had tried to warn me. There were numerous people who would try to warn me about my behavior, especially drinking and driving at the rate that, I did it every single day, right?
Wow.
I went to work every day and I paid my bills and I was going to PCC. I wanted to become a nurse, actually.
Oh, wow.
And so externally, there were things in my life that I could point to say I'm doing okay, right?
Like
For
what we would
24
call a
years of age.
functional alcoholic.
A very, very functional alcoholic. But the first thing I did when I got home from work at 3:30 was crack a beer, and I would drink all night and then finish off with some hard liquor. And then on the weekends I would do it at 7:30 in the morning. I would have alcohol before I even had a piece of toast.
Wow.
Right.
Jeez, yeah.
Okay.
And so I knew that I was an
Yeah.
alcoholic. And so when this happened, I'm sitting in the holding the drunk tank, if you will, the holding cell, and I know that I just killed 2 people, right? I know that.
Wow.
And there's a part of me that is also very much relieved because at that point I don't feel that I know that I'm not going to be a slave to alcohol
It's
any
over.
longer,
Mm,
right?
mm.
But tragically, it took something as severe as this to get me to not
Yeah.
have to lean on alcohol to cope. And I wish that wasn't the case, but I knew that my life would be forever changed because alcohol wouldn't be a part of
For
it.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was curious. It's just like, and also I was curious at that time if like things were different. But yeah, it just seems like you'd almost have, it'd just be a state of shock on many levels of like your addiction is, really coming at you. But then also like there's like this crystalline idea or this crystalline thing hitting you of like what you just did. And it's just, I don't know. Must be
Yeah.
a lot going on. But
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I'll say that, the story really takes a turn about 3 or 4 days later,
Okay,
right?
okay.
After the crash. So I'm in my cell, I'm just, chilling, minding my own business, and I noticed someone had slid the Oregonian underneath my door, and I was confused because I'm like, why is somebody giving me a paper? I didn't ask to see a newspaper or anything like that. But I figured there must be something important in there for me to read, right? So I pick up this paper and I start to flip through it, and my mugshot is in on the front page of the Metro section. And with each paragraph that I read that morning, for the first time in several days now, my faceless victims became people, right?
Mm.
And these people had an incredible story. And the columnist had detailed how these people had, they had been in long-term recovery at this point. One had 16 years clean, one had 17 years clean. they were very active in the recovery community here in Portland. Like they worked with Volunteers of America. They would watch women's children so that they could attend AA and NA meetings. They did some work with Mothers Against Drunk Driving, ironically. And in fact, that night they were actually returning home from a clean and sober New Year's Eve party. I think it was at the convention center.
Wow.
When they were struck and killed by a drunk driver, right? So he called it a palpable irony that these people who had, given their whole lives to help people in addiction get clean and sober would have their lives cut short by a drunk driver, right? And then it was the way he concluded the article that changed everything for me. He said, perhaps the person they will have ended up helping the most is the man who's charged with killing them. And like, it was such a profound statement, right? But at the same time, like you said, like I'm also grappling with the fact that, I'm 24 years old and I know I'm going to prison for a very long time, right? For Measure 11, 2 Measure 11s. And so it was hard to reconcile what he had said with my reality, but it was also something I could not ignore. So like I kind of got back to my spiritual roots because we were brought up in the church. And of course I got away from it when I became a teenager and was living my life. But I kind of went back to that and just kind of prayed for like revelation and understanding into that phrase and how I was supposed to apply it to my life. And so, I kind of thought it would be like some huge revelation, like some vivid dream I would have that would reveal this, this mission, or, some thunderous voice from heaven that only I could hear. And it wasn't, right? It came just in the really firm conviction that the only way this tragedy will not be in vain is if I carry on these people's legacies, right? If I make it literally my life's mission to do everything I can to help people struggling, in addiction, starting with myself, right? Starting with myself and understanding why I made the choices I made. My parents drank one time a year during the Christmas season, like, that much rum, right? And eggnog, right? Like they were not drinkers. They didn't do drugs. I was the only alcoholic in my family. So I needed to understand why that was the case for me so that I could then, help other people. So in that moment, I made a vow to, within myself that I was going to, however long I was going to be in prison at that point, I didn't know. I knew it was going to be a long time, but however long that would be, I was going to be all about this mission. And then I determined that probably best way to do that is to, get an education and get certification as a drug and alcohol counselor. And so that's where my focus was. And thankfully, I was able to do that and get a master's degree along the way and publish a couple books. And
And you started writing this in prison?
I wrote that fully in prison. I wrote that
Fully.
in 7.5 months in my prison cell. And then published it. I wrote it in 2009, published it in 2010. So,
and I was saying earlier, and I'm not kidding, I've had a number of authors on here. This is one of the only 5-star reviewed book on Amazon. So go buy it.
Appreciate that.
But that's really cool. Yeah. Were you going to say something? Sorry.
Well, I was just thinking authors, any authors listening to this are green with envy because all they talk about is how hard it is to write a book, but all they need to do is be sentenced to prison, probably.
Well,
and look at 4 walls.
You
for a
can
while
do that. I would not recommend that route.
You may be able to write that book.
I would recommend a
No
different setting.
It's not the best.
True.
But you really bang this. I mean, this is it's a thick book.
Yeah.
It's not like a pamphlet.
And I shaved it down. When you write your first draft. So I had to read a book on how to write a book, how to write your life story, right? Because I had no idea how to write a book or where to start or what to say And so I read this book and it was really helpful in like structuring the outline. And then it had like 500 prompts to jog your memory to just write. And he's encourage you to write in short episodes so it keeps the reader engaged and make it a real page turner. And but he said to write everything out just like a free write, right? Just get it all out, and then you'll go back and remember kind of what the plot is and what the takeaways are you want your audience to come away with, and then that will let you know what needs to be edited out, right? What's relevant to the story and what's not. And so it was a whole process. It's very therapeutic as well, I'll tell you. thinking about things that, that happened 20, 25, 30 years, prior, and processing that for the first time without alcohol
Mhm.
was such a
Oh my
heavy
God.
thing, right? So I had to take so many breaks in that writing just to be able to process what I had just written,
Yeah, because
right?
suddenly you're living. Well, I mean, you started drinking at what age?
At 14.
Right. So suddenly, all of a sudden, you're jolted into this reality where you're living in your own head for the first time, and you have to listen to what's going on in there,
Right. Right.
which,
Well,
most people, not even, I mean, I don't want to listen to that.
right.
You know,
Right. Well,
it's rough
and then
work.
in a prison setting, no less. So you're still
Right.
adapting to a whole different culture and
Right.
way of life, right? And just the dehumanization that
Mm.
happens in prison, right? And that's something I actively fought against, was to not allow myself to become a number, right? Because like
Hmm.
when they call you out for a visit, or you have a call out to go, like they will refer to you by your cell and bunk number or your SID number more often than your name, right? And so that, I mean, that can certainly have an effect on one's psyche and how they see themselves. And for somebody who struggled with low self-esteem and a poor
Of course.
self-concept, like, so it was like it. So I was very, very, adamant about, kind of rejecting that dehumanization, and coming to see myself as a valuable human being who, should be respected. And
How did you do that? Because I feel like I feel like we all struggle with those things, but I think about those things all the time.
yeah,
Like it's so difficult, and it just seems self-indulgent or something to tell myself that I'm valuable. And
yeah.
so it's a constant. How did you do that in prison where you are literally being, you know, f- maybe literally, but definitely figuratively being beaten down to the lowest common denominator?
Yeah, yeah. So once I kind of established a healthy, firm identity in this work. So like I was working as a GED tutor. So I was able to work with guys
Okay.
one on one and help them to accomplish a goal that they had
Mm.
never accomplished, right? And so that
Service.
felt good, exactly. And then I was able to talk to them about life, and using some of my life lessons and what I learned to help them in their journeys. And then working on my degrees, and proving to myself that I could do well academic, because I didn't graduate from Grant, right? I didn't
Oh,
graduate.
really?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I didn't graduate. And so those things helped. And then when I worked as a mentor in the drug and alcohol program, where I was getting my clinical hours toward my certification, like that really fed my soul, right? I was able to really pour into guys through the group setting. I was running the groups. I was doing one-on-ones with guys. I was doing assessments. I was doing treatment plans. Guys would find me on the yard and talk to me, and guys would talk to me about things you don't talk about, let alone in prison,
Mhm.
Wow.
right? Like they would talk about like being, molested as children, and things like things you just don't talk about,
They
right?
trusted
I
you.
was a
Yeah.
very and they, because they, people are very observant in prison, right? You can just get a lay of the land just by paying attention for 5 minutes and seeing, oh, this group, I see they're kind of doing this thing, or this guy over here, he seems to be kind of by himself. And so people saw that I was very consistent in how I did my time, right? I was either in the education building working on my own college or helping guys get their GEDs, or I was outside, but I wasn't running with the gangs. I wasn't with this clique or that clique, and people respected that, right? So then they would confide in me, and I was able to pour back into them. And so I learned that, like, when I was out and I was in the world, and I was very, again, with a poor self-esteem, I was very superficial, right? I had to have the nice car to appear that I was important. I
Hmm.
had to have the pretty girl to feel that I was like, somebody, right? I
Yeah.
had to, have the nice clothes,
It's
all
all
these things,
status and
superficial
yeah.
crap, right? Meant nothing. But but when I was doing this work, and I was, discovering just the natural reward in this work, I learned that it's not about like, let me get everything I can get to feel good about who I am. It's really about giving away what I have, right?
Hmm.
Which is myself, right? And my time and my knowledge, and pouring that into people. And then that in turn would feed me and validate me and make me feel that I had a purpose in this world. And so that was kind of the way that I kind of, found my humanity for myself.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I knew whatever, officers or staff or however they would look at us or treat us, like that meant nothing because I knew that I was somebody when I was, showing up to work every day and doing this work. And I was staying true to what I said I was going to do at my
Yeah.
sentencing when I promised the family members, the victims' family members and friends that I would do everything I could to not just prevent something like this from happening again, but to help those who are struggling in addiction. And so,
Yeah, I actually didn't know that about the members in the car that they had that recovery, and it totally makes sense of why you're dedicated your life to that. But
mhm.
and so once you found your role and your kind of purpose in there, that kind of solved a lot of those
Yeah,
issues in the
no,
end.
absolutely. It gave me a sense of direction for the first time in my life.
Wow.
Right. For
Yeah.
the first time in my life, I had a sense of direction, even though I'm in prison and I know I'm there for the next 210 months is what, because
Jeez.
they don't sentence you in years. When you
It's all
get
months.
sentenced, it's
Yeah.
in months.
And is there I mean, I guess maybe it's different with the Measure 11, but is there a constant thinking of like maybe you can get that reduced a little bit or
The only time I tried to get it reduced is when Kate Brown was the governor, and
Yeah.
it wasn't when she was commuting all the sentences toward the end of her
Yeah.
her tenure. It was like a year after she had taken over for Kitsapper.
Okay.
Because at that point I had a master's degree, I had my CADC 1. I had the whole time I was in prison, I never had a write up. Right, I never went to the hole. I never had a write
Wow.
up,
Wow.
and so I thought that was a good enough record to stand on to say, can I get out of prison a few years early?
If that's not what is.
Right, and so I was denied. I was sent a form letter. It took about 19 months for them
Wow.
to finally
Just
deny
to
me.
have a
So
decision.
yeah, so
Wow.
there was hope for 19 months.
I was
But
just curious of like I don't even know how that works if like there isn't even any opportunity to ask for that but
yeah, anybody can ask for a commutation or a pardon. I wasn't asking for a pardon. I was asking for a commutation. And even since I've been out, I did file because part of my sentence is still going on now. I completed parole last year, but I can't.
Congratulations.
Thank you so
That must have
much.
felt like a yoke off of
It
your
was
neck.
it was a great feeling. It was a
Yeah.
great feeling. But there's one last part of my sentence that I'm still grappling with, which is I can't have a driver's license until 2029, which is 8 years after my release. And so
Okay.
I did petition when the former prosecutor Mike Schmidt was in office. You can petition whatever county you were convicted in to have them amend your sentence, basically. And this is still a part of my sentence. And so I had,
You should petition that with Nathan. Have you met with him?
I haven't.
I bet he would meet. I mean, I don't want to commit him to anything, but I bet he would meet with you.
Yeah, I may. But I was denied that as well.
Oh, okay.
And
I was gonna say I'm an idiot too because I DM'd you before here and I was like you can park out here, but I didn't even think about that.
It's all good.
How did
Yeah.
you get
I'm
here
sorry.
today?
I Uber everywhere I go.
Yeah,
Everywhere
which
I
is
go.
very expensive.
Yeah, luckily, thankfully, my job
Although
does
maybe not as much as gas. I
does
don't know.
pay for that because I'm here on
good.
work. So yeah, my travel is
Okay.
yeah, they cover that.
So to and from work, do they cover that kind of
Right,
thing? Yeah.
right. But when I do my private work, right, when I'm speaking,
Consulting and things, yeah.
then I'm, it's coming out of my pocket. So, and that was one of the reasons we tried to petition for that is to say,
Sure.
hey, especially when I go to remote areas where
Yeah.
Uber and Lyft are very
Right.
scarce,
Like
right?
Eastern Oregon or something?
I've
like,
got stuck in Herkimer, New York, which is basically
Wow.
Timbuktu, New York,
oh,
right?
wow.
Trying because I was doing 3 college speaking engagements across the state, and it was very difficult to get an Uber.
You're
and,
helping others. I
right,
just think,
and that's the case we made. Is that this will open up so much more opportunities for me to continue this work, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm going literally speaking about, speaking to high school kids before prom and graduation about drinking and driving, and going to colleges to speak to them.
at least give you a dispensation for those purposes. Like,
Yeah, so we'll see, but honestly, whenever I think
Hmm.
about things like that, I also remember that, like, the hard part is over. I'm out.
Yeah.
Like, my worst day out here is far greater than my best day in there,
Right.
right? And I just have to, just that perspective, like, I have to remember that. And even like, I remember I was in the airport about a year ago. It was in New Jersey, and I hate that airport, by the way.
Newark?
I try to
it's
never.
so
Yeah,
disgusting.
EWR is the worst. It's the worst for me because there's always a cancellation. There's
Yeah.
always delays.
Yeah.
And so I'm in this long line, and I'm just stewing over this, and I can't believe. And then I have to remember. I said, Martin, if 2 years ago when I was still in prison at that point, if somebody would have said they're like, you can get out, but like you're gonna have to deal with this delay and stand in this long line for an hour and a half, like, would you take that? Like,
Of course,
obviously,
yeah.
right? And so it's not that bad.
Yeah.
First world problems.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. And so just trying to have that perspective to like cherish every single day. And I mean, legit, like I cherish just being able to sit here with you all, right?
Mm.
I cherish being able to turn on my TV and have a cup of coffee in the morning, or to go out and sit on my porch,
Mhm.
because for 17 and a half years I couldn't. And I dreamt about those moments. And so it's literally just the little things, that freedom brings, that I will forever cherish and view differently than I ever had before.
For sure. I was gonna, ask about kind of like a highlight moment of getting out, and we talked a little bit earlier about this kind of overwhelming sensation you had, but I was curious too. I wanted to talk for a few minutes about, like, you'd mentioned being an AA in prison,
Mhm.
and I just wanted to mention that real quick because there's one person I'm thinking of specifically who it really helped, but I remember, I'm not gonna say who it was because it's kind of controversial, but I remember recognizing in my 20s this guy was an alcoholic because he would drive me to work at the time, and this guy at like 2 in the afternoon had like, I don't know, like a tumbler like this full of like vodka just in his car, and he's like driving me, and I was like realizing like, oh my God, this guy's like has a problem.
Yeah.
But I saw help this person, and I also recognized he would tell me all the time. He's like, for me, it's either all or nothing. Like I'm either drinking everything I can or nothing at all, and it took me a while to realize that some people are kind of wired that way. But I'm just curious, like, how it helped you and what that looked like in prison. And
Yeah, so I'll tell you. So I didn't start going to AA until I was 12 years into prison,
Okay.
right? And so by this time, I had my master's degree. Obviously, I hadn't drank alcohol in 12 years. I was healthy, working out, and like helping people get their education and things like that. So I really thought that I had everything figured out. I did. And it wasn't until I went to AA that I learned the difference between sobriety and recovery.
okay.
And I had just merely been sober for 10 years, but I really wasn't working a program of recovery, right? And so recovery is like, it's a healthy lifestyle across, your biological self, your psychological self, your social, setting, and your spiritual self, right? So this the biopsychosocial model, a spiritual model that I, really incorporated. And so when you think about it, so it's like in your addiction, so think about biologically in your addiction, you're obviously compromised. You're putting chemicals into your body. You're not sleeping well. You're not eating well. You're not exercising. So like you are at a deficit biologically, right? Psychologically, in your addiction, you are not processing your feelings. You're trying to do the opposite and numb your feelings, right? And you're not, going to therapy or doing groups or anything like that.
Self-medicating.
Absolutely suppressing feelings, and so you're obviously not in a good place socially. When you're in your addiction, you're probably hanging out with other people who are doing similar things, so there's no boundaries, and it's unhealthy relationships and things like that. And then spiritually, you're really kind of bankrupt, right? There's really not a lot going on spiritually in your addiction. So if that's me and my addiction, and I'm going to be in recovery, fully in recovery, then I need to address all of those aspects and do the opposite, right? Which means I need to eat healthily. I need to exercise. I need to make sure I get 8 hours of sleep and do the things biologically to be healthy. Psychologically, I should probably be processing my feelings and understand what my triggers are, and, be doing therapy or group or, whatever. Socially, I need to have boundaries, healthy boundaries with people. And obviously
That is so hard.
Yeah, no, it is. It is.
I
But I had
exercise
to
that
do that before I
muscle
got
every
out
day.
and
Yeah.
let people know like where I stood on that. And my close friends and family, obviously they knew the last time I drank, 2 people died and I went to prison for 17 and a half years. So they weren't going to be saying, "Oh, hey, no, it's fine. You can have a drink." Like they understood, but
Yeah.
kind of more casual friends or even like coworkers and things like that I hang out with, like just being assertive about me being in recovery and being active, kind of loud and proud about that, and letting them know that like I would love to hang out with you, but I'm gonna ask that you don't drink for this 2 hours that we're hanging out, right?
Yeah.
And if they're really your friends, then they're gonna respect that,
Of course.
right? They're gonna respect that.
And actually, it might be freeing for them. Like, it might be like, what's that like?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then they become sober curious, and there's a whole thing
Yeah,
there.
there is a whole thing
so
there.
AA really, really helped me to understand like just the language of addiction and recovery, but then just understanding what recovery is. Right?
Yeah, I've actually never thought about that distinction between recovery and sobriety, because you're saying recovery is this holistic approach of
Right.
like all the stuff you just mentioned.
Right.
Yeah.
And because you hear about a dry drunk, right? You hear that in AA, and so it's like once you get sober, now there's all this stuff you have to deal with, right? And so a lot of people, they have all these underlying issues that led to their addiction in the first place. So
Sure.
now you need to address those things, right? So that you can fully like thrive in life and who you are and how you feel about yourself. Otherwise, you're kind of destined to go back at some point
Sure. Yeah.
to the
Relapse.
crutch,
Yeah.
right?
And you're saying AA kind of helps with all that stuff.
It certainly did, and
Yeah.
in conjunction with the 6-month intensive treatment program that I went through when I was inside, I was doing them simultaneously. But then just the connection that you have with the folks in AA, and I've done it since I've been out, more remote groups. Because again, I can't drive, and so it's kind of hard to get to some place. I mean, Portland, sure, you can, there's physically places you can go to. In Pennsylvania, not so much, especially where we live. So, but again, I mean, that's the greatest thing I think that came out of the COVID era are the online support groups,
Sure, yeah.
right? Many of them are free,
How
especially
effective
AA.
are those? Because obviously there's no I'm one of those Luddites who thinks there's no substitute for in person. Like looking at somebody, I just think we're biologically wired to need to look at somebody in reality, like actually, not virtually.
Yeah.
And you can read tone so much better and facial expressions and things, body language. But clearly it's been effective for all sorts of things. And how effective is it
You know what
for
I heard
that?
somebody on, I can't remember who told me on here once, something I never thought about though, is that I think it was for a therapy question I asked, but they were saying you can see kind of the person's environment and that tells
That's
you a lot
true.
about like where
Well,
they're
that's
at.
true.
And I never thought about that.
Yeah, if they're like lying in bed and not
Yeah,
dressed
or
at
if-
2 p.m.
Or if they're like a pack rat and they have all this shit in
Sure.
their house
Sure.
or something. I don't know.
That's
I just
true.
never thought about that it can inform you maybe
That's
that
totally
way,
true.
Yeah, but no, you're absolutely right. Like you definitely need person-to-person contact. But it's very convenient.
It is what it is.
If
yeah.
you need a meeting at 10 o'clock at night because you're just suddenly having
Right.
cravings because you had a really tough day, right? And
So
you can
you
hop
can do that.
online. Absolutely.
So they're on. Are you saying there are on-demand meetings, and how do people find those?
So I have an app on my phone. It's called Meeting Guide, and it's the AA Meeting Guide, and it's a blue app. It's got a little folding chair is the little symbol. But so you'll go in, and if you give it access to your location, then it'll populate all the meetings that are happening in your area, at what time, what location, and then there will be links for online meetings that are happening throughout the day as well.
Yeah, well, I never thought about it. Obviously, it's like the immediacy of it is
Yeah.
is great for people who like need a sponsor or
absolutely.
People who live in rural areas,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
But just the time of day, right? I mean, if you need to find a meeting before work, you want to do it at 6 o'clock a.m., or maybe the meetings in your area, in-person meetings, don't start until 8 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
So now you have this option to join, and you can connect with people from all around the world
Mhm.
who deal with
Yeah.
this disease,
Yeah,
That's
right?
kind
really
of a wider
cool.
net. of-
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
what your network's bigger. Your support system,
Absolutely.
right?
It's a
Peer
support system. It absolutely,
which is huge.
here's the thing. I have a twin brother. I love my
Mhm.
twin brother to death, right? That's my guy. I love him more than anything.
Identical.
No, we're fraternal.
Okay.
I was wondering that too.
But I cannot talk to him about addiction because he doesn't understand. And that's a great thing. I'm
Mhm.
glad he can't understand, right?
Yeah, that's bizarre. That's
Right?
Yeah.
I can talk to him about anything, but not this. So I always encourage people, like your friends and family are there to be your friends and family. They're not there to necessarily be your therapist. They're not there to be your
Right.
sponsor.
That's a
right?
boundary.
Exactly. You
But
have to
it's so
find your
hard to learn
people
that.
where you need to find your people. And I found my people in AA. And so that's where I go for that processing.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Go to my family for other things, go to my friends for other things, but I go to my people for that.
Makes sense. Yeah. I don't know. I had a question. I guess I'll ask it now. You made me think of earlier when you were saying that nobody in your family had alcoholism or kind of battled against that. But I'm just curious. Like, I feel like you would know this, but I just had the question pop in my head of like how I guess genetic or whatever is it? Because I always hear that of like if it's in your family, like obviously you're at higher risk probably. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
So
so
it's interesting that you were the first one to kind of experience that. So it's like
Yeah. Well, I had uncles who were severe alcoholics,
Oh.
so it was definitely just not in my immediate
Yeah.
family.
Sure,
But
yeah.
so when you have an immediate family member, mom or dad, we'll
Mhm.
say, who suffers from alcoholism or drug addiction, there's a 40 to 60% variability
So
is what they
high.
say
It's so high.
Wow.
that you would develop that, right?
Because there is, I mean, they do think there is some biological
There
Is
are
it-
predispositions for sure,
yes,
It's
for
right.
like
sure.
that plus environment.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And so there's many factors that go into like why someone becomes an alcoholic. Like, if you drink like the earlier age that you drink, right? When you first start to drink, right, you're more susceptible to becoming versus if you wait till you're 21 to have that first
Yeah.
drink, right? The
Or even
reasons that
better,
you drink.
25, right? After your brain's done.
Absolutely, yeah. 20. Well, for males, I think it's
probably
around
longer.
26.
Yeah,
For
sure.
females, I think it's 22. I want to
Okay.
say.
Okay.
But yeah, but
Because that's when the neural pathways are finished that are activated by
right.
that.
Well,
Okay.
in your frontal lobe,
It's
which
like
Right.
is
Sure.
prefrontal
right,
cortex
exactly,
or whatever.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the logical
Caveman
thinking
brain.
and understanding
Yeah.
consequences and things like that. But so the reasons why you drink has a lot to do with if you become an alcoholic or not. And so if you're just drinking like only like you have a boundary around it, like I'm only going to drink when I go to a party, right? That's a decently healthy boundary.
Mhm.
But when you start to drink for like reasons that I did, which is because now I'm dealing with internal struggles and these are feelings that I don't want to feel. And so now like that's my coping mechanism, right?
Mhm.
I'm not just drinking just to have a good time anymore. I'm
Right.
drinking to suppress. And so those reasons, certainly can, and especially at the young age that I was at, and things like that certainly went into me becoming, an alcoholic.
Yeah. All right. I was just curious. I appreciate
Yeah.
answering that. Yeah, I wanted to ask about like, was there, we talked a little before recording about like, I was curious if you had like a moment getting out of prison that was just like blew your mind kind of thing. And you had mentioned you were overwhelmed in a couple moments there.
Yeah. So I'll tell there was this one, it was at the grocery store, it may have been Safeway. And so I talked about like just prison is very drab, right? There's the walls are gray. The officers wear gray and black uniforms.
You're probably eating the same thing every
They
day.
make all your choices for you.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so that goes with what I'm saying. So going to the store and the bright lights and the shiny floors and the beeping of the cash register and you go to the soap aisle and there's 40 different soaps where on the canteen
Right.
sheet there's only 7.
Right.
Right. And so I was just Irish Spring every week. And so now I have like 40 different choices or cereal or like taking in all that stimuli was, I mean, it was really overwhelming. But I'll tell you, there was one moment when I was in the store and a baby started to cry, right? And the baby's just hollering. And, and for me, and I know a lot of people can get, a little upset, like do something to calm your baby down, or, it's just irritating. And for me, it was a moment where I was like, oh my God, like I haven't heard that sound for
Sure, yeah.
17 and a half years. And it was like music to my ears to hear that baby just having
It's
that.
like a refreshing, like
Absolutely.
life.
That was like, Martin, you are out in the real world now, right? This is
Yeah.
real
Really
world.
sweet.
And so
It was probably both jarring and beautiful.
absolutely. Because I was like, whoa, what's that sound?
Mhm.
That's a baby crying.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I haven't heard. And it hadn't dawned on me that I hadn't heard that sound in 17 and a half years.
Jeez, yeah.
Right. And so that was a moment for me. But yeah, just the,
And at that time, how much of your life did you spend in prison?
so at that point, 20 years and 8 months. And so I glossed over just for the sake of kind of the interest of the story, but I actually went to prison the first time at 19. I went to prison at 19 for 3.5 years for my participation in an armed robbery that I committed with several of my friends. And so I went to prison at 19. I got out when I was 22. That's when I got my GED.
Okay.
And so I tried to turn my life around. But I'll tell you what, when I went to prison the first time, I had never addressed the underlying issues of my addiction, right? And so when I got out and I was living with my parents in Northeast Portland, I got a job at a warehouse in Southeast Portland. I enrolled in PCC, right? And I'm going to treatment groups twice a week at ASAP downtown. And so again, on the surface, things looked okay. And I remember it was about 3 or 4 months into that time that I felt that I was missing out on life, right? FOMO was a real thing for me because at this point, I'm 22 years old, and everyone I knew, they were going to clubs, they were meeting women, they were having fun, they were living the life that I thought, young people should live. And so I kind of
But most of them
compromised.
are living, I think.
Right. And so I compromised, and I legitimately thought that I could hang out with my guys, go to clubs, and I don't have to drink, right? But I could still like be a part of the scene and have a good time and be young. And I tell this when I go speak at high schools, and I'm like, there's a saying that if you hang out in the barbershop long enough, you will get a haircut. So for me, obviously that meant now I'm starting to drink. And it was like I had never stopped, right? That 3.5 years, like that was out the window. That meant nothing because at this point now I'm drinking every day.
Yeah.
And then I get my license for the first time, and now I'm driving, and I'm drinking and driving every day. And so and then over 19 months led into the fatal crash. So
Yeah.
at that point I got out, I was 42. So I had spent half my life in prison at that point.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's your formative life
Yep.
in a lot of ways.
Yep.
Because that's when you're learning about who you are
Yep.
and what your strengths are, and you finally have this mental and emotional some maturity to get that right and figure what is my purpose and all
Right.
sorts of things like that.
Yeah, it was during that second sentence,
Jeez.
reading that article, it was everything for me. And so, a lot of people have asked me, when I go speak, and they say, well, how did you deal with the guilt, right, of killing two innocent people? And I walked them through that, and it took about 3 or 4 years for me to get to a place where I could actually come to forgive myself. So at that point, I had gotten back to my spiritual roots. So I believed that, my higher power had forgiven me. 3 of the 4 family members who spoke in my sentencing had expressed that they had forgiven me. So I know I had their forgiveness, but it was such a difficult thing to come to forgive myself for this, right? And so, like for what that would look like is for 11 months out of the year, I was all about the mission. I was helping people. I was learning about addiction, doing the stuff. And then in December, like I would just like absolutely punish myself. I would force myself to relive every detail of that day and that night, and really torment myself because in a weird way, I felt that was me honoring my victims by not allowing myself to forget what happened,
Right.
as though you could ever forget what happened, right? But
that's something you do by choice, basically.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, and so December was just it was a horrible month for me. And then I realized 3 or 4 years in, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I made a vow to these parents or to the victims of these family members that I was going to do this 365 days of the year, right? Not for 11 months. And so when I realized that I was actually dishonoring what I said I was going to do, then I kind of threw off the shackles of self-condemnation and self-pity and all those things, and said I'm going to fully throw myself into this mission and allow the work that I do be enough to to allow me to feel good about who I am.
Yeah.
Right. And I can't take back what happened, but I can certainly do everything I can to prevent it from happening again and in other people's lives. And that's enough. And that's enough for me. And, there's a difference between shame and guilt. And I tell people that we use them interchangeably, but they're really different, right? And guilt is a very healthy kind of self-correcting behavioral mechanism, right? You do something you don't feel good about. Your conscience tells you, we don't want to do this again. We feel bad about this. So therefore going to do a 180 and correct this behavior, right?
Your values aren't in
thing.
alignment with your behavior.
Exactly. So that's a good, healthy thing to have. I'd be worried if you didn't have that and you just went out terrorizing people and didn't.
Then you're a sociopath.
Exactly. But shame is when that guilt lingers for too long and it morphs into just this overarching dark gray cloud that follows you wherever you go and tells you that you are unworthy, that you're not forgivable, that you're unlovable, that you're a horrible person. Like, there is nothing good that can come from that. Right. And so that's what we have to kind of, caution ourselves about, is to not allow that guilt that's a healthy thing that you should adhere to and change your behavior because of, to then allow that to morph into something much darker and that will serve no purpose other than to beat you down. So I try to use that to help people to distinguish between the
Yeah.
two, to overcome whatever it
Yeah.
is they're dealing with.
You kind of reminded me of that because I remember you had a video about that, and I thought that was
Yep.
interesting. The distinction between guilt and shame, and that's super, super helpful, I think. I wanted to get into your role at Alliance for Life, but before that, I just wanted to. You also had a video. I might play a second of it here, but I just really enjoyed your. You have a couple videos on how addiction is a disease.
This is a message for anybody who is struggling with drugs and or alcohol and are being told by people around them that they should just be able to quit by themselves. Addiction is a disease. In the same way we would not ask somebody who has been diagnosed with cancer or lupus or diabetes to go it alone and try to figure it out themselves, nobody who understands addiction would ask you to do the same.
I just think I talk about it so much on here in Portland and the Northwest. I just feel like people kind of downplay it and pretend that it's not a thing. And but the way you talked about it just makes it really actualized and understanding that it is a disease and it's it is treatable. And but I don't know if you just talk a few minutes about that. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I think the video you're referring to, I really succinctly just stated that alcoholism is a disease, because if you think about a disease has an onset, right? There's a point at which the disease starts to manifest in your life, and then things change for you biologically, and structurally, and becomes an alcoholism in your brain anyway. And so there's an onset, and then it's progressive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you have any other disease, diabetes, lupus, congestive heart failure, anything, right? It can be progressive, right?
And deadly.
And very deadly if not treated like a disease, right? Like alcoholism, right?
Yeah.
Can literally kill you. Drug addiction can literally kill you if not treated. And so in the same way that somebody has high blood, hypertension, and they're, told to, exercise more and take this medication, and then the blood pressure goes down, and then you're okay. The minute you stop taking those medications and prescriptions, then you're gonna see bad things happen.
Don't you think alcoholism is downplayed too because it's so ingrained in the culture?
Culturally.
Exactly. No, this is another
Oregon wine tasting.
Absolutely. This was another revelation I had when I got out, and somebody was talking about a baby shower, or maybe I saw it online or on Instagram or something like that. And wine is and champagne is that. I'm like,
yeah, they're at all
when
of them.
did baby showers start having alcohol?
I know.
Yeah.
Like this is for the mother to receive gifts for her baby.
Right.
And so, but
Yeah.
just to show how ingrained it is everywhere we go.
It's
I mean, it's
true.
such an alcoholic culture. And so you're right. So that it very much normalizes it. It normalizes drinking and driving.
Yes,
I
it
mean,
does.
it doesn't matter what
Yeah.
social background.
We all
what-
know after the sommelier comes to the table, most people are driving home.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
I love that
And
word.
we're all
Absolutely.
good with it,
Right.
I guess.
Absolutely.
I mean, just don't get pulled over.
Yep.
And because as you know, in a lot of states, and I think it's true here, not that there's a ton of enforcement going on in the metro area just because they're busy with so many other things, but it's not just about the legal limit. It's
Right.
about whether you can drive that
That's right.
car. You may be impaired at any
Yeah.
level.
That's right.
Well, you mentioned
People don't know that.
I think it was in that video you mentioned, or I think it was in your New Year's Eve one that you mentioned, your ability to understand risks
Right.
and all that stuff kind of
Yeah.
goes away.
Yes.
That's why you
Inhibitions.
exactly. Your inhibitions go out the window. Your
Yeah.
judgment is
Judgment,
clouded.
yeah.
Right.
Totally.
Exactly. It's the first thing that goes. And so
Totally.
if you think you're going to be making sound decisions on how you're going to get home after
Right.
you've already had a couple drinks, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I caution people everywhere I
It's
speak.
true.
Know how you're going to get home. And there's a lot more options today than there were in 2003.
sure.
Well,
Right.
and I love that you Uber everywhere actually, because it's like, look, I'm a sober guy. I'm Ubering everywhere. It's worth it. It's
Right.
worth that investment for you. If this is what you need to do, take a car home.
Right.
But you're right. It is a lot. I remember, I mean, I'm kind of getting older now, but I remember I used to take radio cab everywhere, and you had to do that whole thing with the card where they copy your credit card.
Yep.
It's just so much easier now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right on your phone. And I know people, and I tell people, like, I know that, maybe you don't have that extra $20 to like get home.
Oh, just wait till you get slapped with jail fines.
Well, exactly. Like, don't allow
Thousands of
trying to
dollars.
save $20 get you 20 years.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
simple and plain. Or even getting a DUI. You're going to spend a whole lot more than $20
Yeah.
on a DUI. So I'm telling you, like, it's non-negotiable. If you know you're going to be out drinking or think there's a chance,
Just do it.
know how you're going to get home before you start to do that.
Yeah.
And then go do your thing. Like, I don't tell people when I show up that you should not, I speak at about 10 DUI victim impact panels every month remotely
Wow.
from Multnomah County to Seattle to Pennsylvania. And so these are all people who have gotten their first, sometimes second or third DUI,
Okay.
right? I'm not there to tell you that you should never have alcohol again. That's a choice you have to make for yourself and what your relationship with alcohol is and if you need to do something different in your life. What I am telling you is that what you do behind closed doors is your business. But the minute you step outside and get onto our roads, now you've made it everybody else's business.
Sure, yeah.
And that's what we're trying to avoid. That's it.
Yeah. Once
You
you
know?
involve a vehicle or anything, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, to go back to your so it's a disease. So for you who someone who is not an alcoholic, right? If you have a drink right now, there's going to be several receptor sites in your brain that are going to light up, right? That are now activated. If I take that same drink, I'm going to have probably twice the amount of receptors that light up in my brain because my brain has been structurally changed,
Okay.
right? Due to my dependence on the chemical, right? And so that's just one example of how an alcoholic's brain just operates differently than a non-alcoholic's brain, right? And so
I've been told by methamphetamine addicts that it screws up their idea of a good time. Like they need more stimulant. They find that they need more stimulus to feel something or to feel good. And maybe it's not permanent, but does that same thing exist in alcohol?
So alcohol is a depressant,
Yeah.
right? And so methamphetamine is a stimulant. So, you think about, so like when you first start drinking, a lot of people, they start to loosen up. It doesn't feel different. It feels good, right? Like I'm just a social lubricant. I'm having a good time. But the more you drink, and think about this, and it happened so many times in my life. Like the more I drank throughout the evening, I found myself just like sad and even crying and like being emotional. And it's like, because now I'm depressing my central nervous system, right? And I'm already trying to suppress not good feelings. And so now I've compounded that. And so, but yeah, so it absolutely affects your dopamine system, right? And so you don't find things as enjoyable that you normally would, right? Like going,
right? Because it's still a hit of dopamine, right?
Absolutely,
to get that drink,
absolutely.
Like
all drugs and alcohol act
rewarding.
on the dopamine pathway.
Okay,
all of it. Yep.
And then, do you, with alcohol, then, or depressants generally, is there something going on with that? The feelings of sadness and things like that, where they're harder to tap into because they've been numb for so long?
Well, absolutely. And so a lot of people, like they have like their most vulnerable time for relapse is during that first 6 months, right? Because now for the first time, they're having to
everything.
Exactly. And it's like so much more intense.
Yeah.
Because they've been pushing it down as opposed to like
vivid. And
if you all go through a hard time, like you're gonna be actively processing that sadness or that, hurt or whatever it is, that grief, and then it's like a slow drip of processing and then it's gonna go away. But for those of us who have just suppressed it, so now all this stuff is coming up from the past, along with what I'm dealing with in current day-to-day stuff. So it's just magnified. And it is a very overwhelming thing. And so that's why you'll know in like AA and why it works is because they say like you should not be in a relationship for like your first year.
Yeah.
Right? Because like you need to just start to grapple with life and what you have going on in your own life before you bring in a relationship, because there's always going to be some emotionality that comes with the relationship, right? And so you're already vulnerable. You need to protect yourself as much as you can, at least within that first year.
I've actually never heard that. Makes sense though. Yeah.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
They say get a plant. If the plant is still living in 6 months, then get a dog. If the dog is still around, then you get the partner.
I have a couple more addiction things, but I do want to talk about your director of cultural engagement for Lines for Life. Tell me about like what Lines for Life is, and also the barbershop stuff we were talking about earlier is just really cool, I think. So talk about that for a minute.
Yeah. So when I got out, so I had my certified alcohol and drug counseling credential. So when I got out, I knew I needed to work, and preferably remotely, as a drug and alcohol counselor, right? And so just uploaded my resume on Indeed. Found Lines for Life.
By the way, what's your master's degree in?
Psychology.
Okay. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah.
Bachelor's in sociology, master's in psychology.
Wow.
And so Lines for Life was very appealing. because they have their own minimum wage of $20 an hour, so nobody makes under $20 an hour working for them, and it was fully remote. Right, so they hired me as a CADC case manager when we still had the Measure 110
Was that
law.
when Dwight Holton was?
That's my CEO. That's my boss.
He's great. He's a
Dwight is the
wonderful
man.
person.
He's the man.
Yeah.
Yes, he is. And so I got hired. They fully embraced my story. I was adamant about where I had been the last 17 and a half years. So I got hired and was taking calls on the Measure 110 line, helping people in Portland get connected, those who had been cited with a small amount of drugs, to get connected with
that was like a special 110 line.
It was,
Okay.
yeah. It was the Telephone Addiction Recovery Center line. But I also took calls on the 988 Suicide Crisis line and the Senior Loneliness line and the Military Helpline.
Okay.
So I took calls across several lines, but they hired me specifically for that line. And so I did that for a couple years.
How often did that actually ring?
Yeah, very, very seldom. I would literally probably get like 1 or 2 calls a week.
Wow.
A week. And I'm working 40 hours a week.
And then is there any data on what happened with those people and whether there was action after the call? 'Cause
Yeah,
that's tough too, right?
Right. So we never knew because
then your job was done.
The only interaction they had with us was the call. We would do a quick, about a 15-minute drug and alcohol screening. And then it was optional. We would always offer them resources in their locale, but they didn't have to take them. And even if they did take them, there was no obligation for us to follow up to say, hey, did you have your assessment? How are things going? There was never any follow up with those. And so even though the vast majority of people that I talked to, agreed to take the resources, have no idea if they ever tapped into those.
That's too bad.
So,
and there was no, as far as you know, was there any data from this that the state was doing on that?
Yeah, well, they were tracking how many people called and how many people took resources, but as far as like if those people actually got into treatment or not, I don't know. That would have been beyond
tragic,
us.
Yeah,
because
there's somebody who's actually calling, and then my understanding from talking to people struggling with addiction is they need it now.
Right.
Get it now. Get it from now.
Right.
Because there's that window, and it will probably close because a symptom of the disease is denial and wanting more, right?
Absolutely.
So isn't that a very unique window of time where you have to act immediately?
When they have that motivation, for whatever reason, they've hit rock bottom or whatever it is, they're ready for treatment. Like you need to take advantage of that because it may not last a week. Right.
Yeah.
Especially if they feel there's no hope. If they've made every attempt to get into treatment and there's just not enough beds, then they say, "Well, I tried, so and it didn't work out. So what's the point, right? I may as well go back." Yeah.
People don't know this either, but alcohol detox is very deadly.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So yeah, oftentimes folks will need medications to like prevent, having seizures and things like that.
Get the
Yeah,
shake.
it's not something you
absolutely.
can just do
It can
a lot of the
absolutely kill
time
you.
on your own.
Yep. Yeah. Now, thankfully, I was never chemically dependent where like I never had like tremors and never had a seizure or anything like that where I needed detox. But I was very much psychologically dependent, right? Where I felt that I just couldn't live or be happy in life without alcohol.
Yeah.
And so to go
You
back.
did that for a while, and
What's that?
oh, I was just saying. So yeah, but you did that for a while.
Yeah, so I did that for a couple years, and then this position, director of cultural engagement, came open, and I was interested in it, but they wanted to hire somebody who lives in Portland, which makes sense because you need to physically be in the community doing the work, right? And I was living in Pennsylvania, and so I remember I would come back to Portland, and visit the office and things like that, and talk to Dwight, and we eventually got to the point where we agreed that if I were to take the position, I would agree to come to Portland every month for at least a week to do the community work. And so that's what I've been doing since October of 23. We have done a ton of trainings, mental health trainings, substance abuse prevention trainings, suicide prevention trainings with the Urban League, with Oregon Change Clinic, with OHA's Black and African Immigrant Refugee community, with with SACO, the Somali American Council of Oregon. We've done fentanyl awareness and prevention trainings and campaigns with them, still working with them. We go into the prisons. I told my boss that it was a high priority. If should I get this position, it's going to be a high priority for me to get into the prison setting. There's a ton of work that needs to be done in there, and thankfully they supported that from the top down. They supported that. So since last May, we've been going into the state penitentiary and Coffee Creek and other prisons to do mental health first aid trainings for the adults in custody who are peer mentors. And so they're able to have another credential. It's a nationally accredited program. They can add it on their resumes.
It's wonderful.
And so now we're looking to actually create a program that goes deeper, that will allow anybody who's eligible in the Department of Corrections to get certified as a drug and alcohol counselor in the way that I did.
That's awesome, yeah.
And so,
and that was kind of your initiative or your idea to do that. Like
it was.
You just wanted. You identified with them. You're like, I want to do
exactly.
this.
Yeah, I call it we call it the custody to counseling pipeline.
Okay.
Kind of play on words, the school to prison pipeline. But this would be for folks who are interested in this work and want to do more than just be a peer mentor, which is great. We need peer mentors, but we also need more clinicians, especially clinicians of color, and especially clinicians who are paroling from prison and going out to some of the rural areas, rural counties in Oregon to fill those vacancies. There's so many open vacancies in this field because it's tough, right? You're working with a high risk population. It doesn't always, pay a ton of money, and so it can be a challenge with hiring folks and keeping folks, right? But there are so many motivated individuals who have done the work on themselves while incarcerated and are now ready to get out, come into the Oregon communities that they came from to do some good work. So
yeah, and I wanted you to tell people about the barbershop thing because I thought that was so cool. As somebody who, like I was telling you, I don't know if I'm anti-therapy, but I've never really been to therapy, and I just feel like I'm more comfortable just talking to folks. But I think that what you were describing, that program sounds so cool because it's an opportunity for people to kind of get into that and have a resource for
absolutely. Yeah. So one of our initiatives in my department, so we go into barbershops and hair salons here in Portland, and we will train the barbers and hairstylists in mental health first aid.
That's so
because we
smart.
know that especially folks in Black and brown communities, like they're much more apt to talk to their barber about what's going on and how they feel, as opposed to going to see a licensed therapist.
My hairstylist knows everything about me.
Exactly.
Everything.
Exactly. Right. So these are already trusted people. They have the capital, and so we say
that's so smart.
So we want to train them on what to look and listen for if somebody is struggling with the mental health challenge or suicidal ideation, and then how to properly respond, right? And then how to make the referral should they need further help, right? And so we do that training. We pay the barbers. We give them like $100 gift card for their time. Appreciate their time, and then we'll spend the next 2 or 3 months promoting to the community that we're going to have a barbershop conversation, is what we call it, around mental health. And so we'll hire a DJ, we'll have it catered, and for 2 or 3 hours on a Saturday afternoon, people come in and get their hair cut, get their hair styled. Then we're there having a conversation about mental health and why it's important for us to be aware of our own, challenges and struggles and things like that.
It's so cool. Yeah, I just thought that was cool.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll plug in.
It's brilliant.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Who came up?
We're
with
proud
that?
of it. So it actually did not start with us. It started, I want to say, in Little Rock, Arkansas, in 2016, I believe. That was the first one I saw. It's called the Confess Project.
Yeah.
And so ours is a little different in the mental health first aid, because they do something a little different. And I don't know if they do the barbershop conversations in the way that we do it. But it's still same idea,
kind of modeled after.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let me go back to, I had a couple addiction questions, sort of regional here. I just wrote down, does the Northwest have a kind of unique addiction problem, do you think? Or is it worse in other parts of the country, or is it worse here? Or is it
it's very much on display here, I think.
Okay.
I mean, addiction, it's in every state, right?
Yeah, right.
But certainly you see, I see it when I come to Portland. It's gotten somewhat better, but I'll tell you what, I think Oregon ranks it's such a shameful statistic, 48th or 49th in folks having access to treatment services.
Treatment, okay.
And
right?
we're somewhere down there in terms of addiction too.
Yeah,
Well, I was
yeah.
curious too, like, cause I've heard, I forget what it's called I think it's in Philly. There's a neighborhood that's really like tons of fentanyl and stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
I
don't
know the
know.
neighborhood you're talking
Kensington,
about.
Kensington.
Kensington,
Yeah,
yeah.
Kensington. Yeah,
I
and
don't know
again,
if
it's
that's
very
similar.
much on open display. And again,
Bronx,
that
yeah.
kind of, it's really about the kind of local politics and like how they're addressing that problem, right? Or what they're not doing. And so I think you just physically see it on display. And I know the governor has said that that's big on her platform to address mental health, and in fact I'm actually sitting on a subcommittee that she
That's great.
put together, to address. I sit on the Oregon Youth Addiction Alliance. So it's a subcommittee of the larger committee that it basically is looking to come up with solutions on how to expand access and really build out more peer support and like recovery schools and things like that. So just to provide more options, for folks to get connected to recovery services, and not just in the community but also in carceral settings as well.
Sure,
We've come up with a bunch of different ideas that are going to become kind of policy proposals to address this.
Nice.
A lot of the people that Andy and I have talked to, I'm sure that you interact with these people a lot. Ellen Evans, Lance Wharton from City Team, a lot of people in that recovery space who are working to get funding say they have problems getting funding for recovery.
Yeah.
Just statewide, especially in Multnomah County, City of Portland. And if it's recovery based, people aren't interested around here.
Right. And I know that the Measure 110 money, but I know it took a while for it to come out. Like it was really backloaded. And so we're like 2 or 3 years into it. It was an issue that we had with our TARC line, with the Telephone Addiction Recovery Center, is that they were judging it based on those very lackluster numbers. But again, like the vast majority of the money for the behavioral resource, what was the Burn Network, basically like a bunch of recovery-based networks working together in different counties to, provide more services. That money didn't come for a few years. Right, exactly. And so it's like you're judging this, this law and the implementation of this law based on, these not impressive numbers, but the money hasn't shown up yet.
And how difficult for you if you're out lines for, the police talk about this all the time,
right?
Because like it or not, they end up on the front. Portland Street Response can't do much yet. They end up on the front lines, a lot of this addiction stuff. And when I ask them things like, well, where do you send people? They say there isn't anywhere. We don't, we've got like For Health and Hooper and
Cascadia.
one other place. A couple other places, but that's the end of the line. And if those beds are full, there's really nothing we can do.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. It was
Where's the infrastructure, right?
Right. No, you're right. And it was a challenge, even like working with different police departments to help get the word out about the TARC line when they would cite somebody with a small amount of drugs. I know down in Klamath, they were really helpful. The police department was really, really helpful with handing out our cards when they would say, hey, give this number a call, they can help. But if you don't have that cooperation on that front, then it's also really hard to, but like you said, even if folks want the treatment, right? Like, where are the beds?
Right. Yeah.
Where's the space? Where are the facilities?
A known kind of shortage for a long time.
And then you talk about rural areas and that's
gosh.
a whole other
Nothing.
issue, right?
It's just
Well, I was going to say,
desperation.
I do,
Yeah.
I don't know, and maybe you disagree with it, I don't know, but I like some of the stuff the governor's doing right now, and I think that even though it's kind of late to the game, I do think they're finally kind of realizing that. Talking about it.
Somebody's talking about it.
Right? And convening committees to come up with, reasonable, doable solutions that will obviously have to, go through the legislative process, but at least the process has started.
Yeah.
I will give credit where credit is due, and the process has been started.
One of the things I was going to ask you is Tina Kodak has made a big push to loosen the civil commitment laws in Oregon. I don't know if you know about that.
I just heard about that. I just saw that. I know that NAMI was really at the forefront. Chris, the CEO of NAMI Oregon, was really, really behind that. He's done a lot of great things policy wise. To make things easier for folks to get access to treatment.
Okay, yeah. I was just curious, your thoughts, but you think it's a good thing?
Yeah, no, I think, because before, it basically came down to where, like, you had to, like, commit a crime in order to get right.
Sure, yeah.
And so to lessen that threshold, to be able to, have folks committed early on is a great thing.
But
right?
again, committed where? Like, there is no infrastructure for that. I mean, the state hospital is filled with violent criminals, as you know, and it's Judge Mossman's having to say, I'm going to let these people out because there's just not a lot
Capacity.
of there's zero capacity, and there's just zero ability to process people through there effectively. And then where else are they going to go? I mean, if you're a violent meth addict, there's just not a lot of places for you.
Certain criteria that will exclude you from certain places,
especially if it's involuntary.
You know? And then being suicidal is a whole other element that can pose an issue.
Well, there's one thing I was going to ask you about how, and I feel like you probably, helped people that deal with this, but I talk a lot about how, I guess with addiction treatment especially, like how has that changed with these newer drugs like fentanyl and stuff? And
it's a challenge. It is absolutely a challenge. Then you have one that's even newer than fentanyl, Trank, the basically an elephant tranquilizer, where Narcan does not work on, right?
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So
different receptors or something.
Right. So like with fentanyl, so for instance, like one of the campaigns we're doing is with the Somali community around fentanyl awareness. So we know that it is, it's ravaging the country, but like especially in that community,
really?
And I didn't know this.
Yeah, I didn't either. Yeah.
Well, isn't part of it because of where they're from? I mean, I went to school. I grew up weirdly in Kent, Washington. There's a very large immigrant population, and a fair amount of them are Somali. And I grew up with some of them, and their parents, or if they're first generation, this is a very violent place.
Yep.
And the things they see are really, we can't imagine it.
Yep.
Right. So you come out of that you have all this unprocessed trauma, and I mean, is that your understanding?
Well, and to adapt to a whole new culture.
Absolutely.
But so with that community in particular, so we've learned that I think 70% of the kids who die by fentanyl poisoning, not overdose, but poisoning, are girls, adolescent girls between the ages of 13 and 17, right?
Is that the thing where they think it's an Adderall?
Exactly.
Okay.
And so kids, so about 80% of those, I want to say 80% of those who secure the fentanyl, they found it through Snapchat.
Yeah.
Right. So
All
kids will target
emojis
kids on Snapchat.
Yeah.
So they'll look for kids who are having posts about just how down they're feeling or life is really tough right now, and they will pounce on them and say, hey, I noticed that, things are kind of rough right now, and to kind of gain that trust and, be a listening ear and things like that over the course of a few days. And then they'll say, I've got something that's totally safe that can make things better for you. So they think that they're taking something that's legit, right? Exactly. And because it looks real, right? You can't tell it from a fake pill. And so they get it and they take it and they die. But the stigma, right? Just the just enormous stigma is a challenge, but then it's also coupled with the shame, especially in that community. That's a very, very, religious, spiritual culture.
Yeah.
And so because the parents will often feel that that it's some moral failure on their part of their kids start, messing with drugs or alcohol or anything like that. And so
there's a lot of family shame.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So having to address that, having to address the stigma, having to address all the
That's a lot of work.
the pitfalls so it's a lot.
So you're tackling all of this.
Yeah.
And how do you do it? Is this is it drop in? Is it a multi-month, multi-level course? Or?
Yeah. So we work with the kids separately because all of them speak English, right? So we're able to go in and like just do a presentation on like what fentanyl is and how it's made and why it's so deadly and how kids are targeted and things like that. Whereas with the parents, the vast majority of them speak Somali, and so we have to make sure has to be an interpreter there, and then just the way that we present it is a little different because we kind of have to like slowly like just build the trust first before we can just go right in and start talking about drugs, right, and death and
it's like,
things
who
like that.
Who are you? What is your agenda?
Exactly. So But we've had great success in doing these listening sessions and these presentations, and surprisingly, the parents and imams have actually been more open to having these discussions kind of quicker than we thought. We thought it would take at least 6 months to repeatedly show up so they can see us and trust us and know who we are and what we're about. By the second meeting, they were ready to have a discussion and learn about fentanyl. Like they had no idea what it was, right?
Yeah.
What it even looks like.
Is it, do you find that the longer, I mean, it probably doesn't take long, but the longer somebody's here, the more receptive they are, in part probably because it ends up affecting, they know somebody who it's affected,
Absolutely.
or they've read or heard about somebody in that community
Absolutely.
who's been devastated by this.
Yep, and there have been a couple recent deaths by suicide as well as overdose in that community. And so when one person dies in that community, the whole community knows, right? I mean, they are that close. Like the whole community knows and will mourn over that. And then
is this mostly in Rockwood? So
so it's out there. Yep, yep. And so we've done that. We're working to create a documentary actually with folks from their community telling their stories about, and that's a whole other challenge because it's like, even when these things happen, there's still so much stigma and shame. It's like, do we really want to like put this out publicly?
Sure.
Because this looks bad for our community. And so there's still that, but
It's uncomfortable, but it's honest.
it's,
and,
and it's necessary because it's happening. And so, we can either not talk about it or we can talk about it. We can do something about it. We can not do something about it.
Yeah.
But obviously being culturally sensitive and things like that is paramount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just wild. I try to talk about a lot how it just seems like the shift is so dramatic from, even alcohol to these drugs just get like crazy now. And,
and they're literally deadly. Like even the weed,
yeah, it's like super.
Nobody talks about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, because like, I'm 46, and so like the weed that we smoked, like the THC level was so much. I was like literally 10 times higher.
It
now,
was literally weed,
right? Absolutely.
And now it's like lab grown.
It's
like,
lab grown.
perfection.
It's so concentrated and can lead to so many other issues around mental health, right? Hallucinations and psychosis and anxiety. I mean, just debilitating effects.
Yeah.
Right. Because it is a different beast than it was way back then.
But this is real. So I'm sure you've talked to the SAM people or
SAMHSA?
Smart Approaches to Marijuana, I think is what it's called. And Kevin Sabet leads it. He and Dwight are friends.
Okay.
I'll have to connect
Dwight knows
you.
everybody.
He knows everybody. He knows everybody. But they, online at least, there is a lot of pushback about this because I'm older than you, but fortunately not by much. And when we were growing up, as you know, there were some false things being said. You know, if you do, it was reefer madness kind of thing still going on. Like, if you do this, you will die kind of message. Sure. And then everybody tries it. And like you said, it was kind of nothing for a lot of people. And it's not that anymore. Now it's like dabs and things and whatever. It's not that anymore. But, people would try it and then they'd be like, oh, this is kind of nothing. Or I don't really feel anything. And I'm going to move. It's not interesting. I'm going to move on to something else. And this is all really different. But also there's still this hangover, I feel like, from the 80s where we sort of maybe weren't being fully transparent and truthful with people about the nuances, because it's hard to deliver a nuanced message. And I completely understand that. But now we're at this point where people think this is just like government propaganda or something, and people don't believe it. I mean, they hear things like, oh, there's psychosis, and they think, yeah, that's not going to be me.
Right.
Like you're just, but you're saying you have seen this, you have experience with this.
Right. Absolutely. And here's the thing, like if everybody knew ahead of time that for those who have predispositions to becoming an addict or an alcoholic, if you knew that ahead of time, like, would you still have that first joint? Would you still have that first drink? Right? Nobody knows.
Probably be a lot less likely.
What's going on up here and how my interaction with this drug or substance is going to affect me long term. We don't know that.
Yeah.
If we knew that, we hopefully would make better choices. So just the fact that you may be okay. You may be able to smoke weed or do meth or do heroin and never become addicted, but you also may not.
Professor at Columbia who takes heroin.
Right.
Yeah.
There are many people who actually do methamphetamine on a recreational basis, and they go to work every day and they pay their bills and they take care of their kids and do all of that. Right. Good for them. But there's a whole lot of other people who aren't so
Don't
successful
have
with
that
doing
luxury.
it.
Right, yeah.
And
So how do
actually,
you know?
most don't, and most people don't end up addicted. But then
Facts.
if you do, it is so hard to get off that
Exactly.
ramp, right?
Exactly. So you don't know what your biochemistry is and how it's going to interact with that drug. So you're really playing Russian roulette when you start to do these drugs and introduce these, foreign agents, chemicals into your body. And then it's a crapshoot as to how your body is going to react and how your brain is going to respond, and if you're going to become an alcoholic or an addict or not.
Yeah.
Isn't it wild this is just my perception. It may or may not be yours, but I think that marijuana is now more acceptable than drinking. That's just
It's
my
definitely-
perception. I mean, the Office of Civic Life for a minute, and then it switched to some other bureau. But for a minute, one of the Office of Civic Life in the city of Portland, one of their jobs was to promote marijuana, and they were still are, as far as I know, specifically targeting minorities.
Absolutely.
for this.
Absolutely.
Like, hey, this is a business you should get into.
Yeah.
And it just seems crazy to me for a city so focused on diversity to be advocating selling drugs.
Well, it brings in a ton of money.
Yes,
brings
it
in a
does.
ton of money.
It does, yeah.
So,
and
I mean,
it's a business, and like I
Yeah.
don't want to come down on businesses, but it's just it's
Well,
it's a
there's-
nuance a lot of people I think don't think about.
yeah.
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 Well, I was gonna say, I've talked a lot on the show about how I've smoked a lot of weed in my life, but it is weird just the surplus of it, and like we went through this period where there was stores on every block, and now it's kind of receded a little bit.
Mhm.
But it's very weird for me as somebody who in my 20s spent
Right.
way too many hours of my life
Trying to
waiting
find
for a
it.
dealer,
Yeah.
and now you see signs out here that's like $5 for an
Yeah.
eighth, and
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
it is kind of like overwhelming sometimes, and you actually made me think. I had a stat on here, and I wonder how this compares to how culturally accepted pot is now. But I just saw this week. Drinking nationally is at a 90-year low. It's like 54% of adults consume now, and that was at 60%, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was a Gallup poll that just came
Wow.
out. and-
Yeah, I saw that this generation now has the lowest rate of drinking than any other generation in the past. And I saw that you're starting to see more NA bars pop
Yeah,
up,
yeah.
right? That's becoming
They
a
have,
thing
mo-
around the country.
mocktails and
Yeah,
all- yeah,
exactly. So
yeah.
they have all the glitz and glam of a
The
cocktail
bar-
just
the
without the
bar. Yeah.
alcohol, right? Because you think about like bars and things like that, like it's really just a social oasis,
It's
right?
true.
People go there to get out of the house and to connect with people. And so if I can do that and still have this, pretty little drink, but just without the alcohol, like I'm still getting the benefit of being in this gathering space,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
And so, and it appeals to certainly this younger generation, this not finding alcohol so appealing. And
Yeah,
so,
and I wonder what that is. Honestly, when you guys were talking a second ago, I bring up like Adderall a lot. I think younger kids get into that kind of stimulant.
That's
Yeah.
true. That is interesting.
And
But I
they-
think it's because they're not, I mean, just as the mother of a teenager and soon to be teenager too, mine are because I push them out, but in general, they don't want to go anywhere.
Hmm.
They just
Like,
want to text
no-
on their,
Oh, okay.
mine do, and they are with people who want to go out and do things, but in general, they
Well,
just want to
that's-
text each other. They don't want to go. That's why I
Yeah.
like this idea of these NA bars because it's somewhere for them to go.
Right.
Sure,
And
yeah.
I think the Adderall, that's a singular deal. It's not let's all sit around and pop an Adderall.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure. Yeah, it's not like a party atmosphere, and I don't know. You'd know better than me because you're your kids, but I always feel like that stuff's all like the COVID lockdown. Like they
that
just
too,
are very
especially here.
There's not a lot of social, aspects.
Especially here, when
Yeah.
it just went on for so long.
and
Yeah.
that feeds into mental health issues. and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Isolation.
the numbers were just terrible coming out of the COVID era.
Do you have to do education? Because especially since COVID, right? You could be punished for being social, and I completely get it and everything. But these kids who grew up with that, and even some of it, I certainly feel still to this day in some ways affected by it.
Mhm.
And it has definitely affected my social life, my industry. I think things culturally in the city in general, there's just not a lot of in-person stuff. But do you feel like some of your education is around loneliness and human connection?
Definitely. The opposite of addiction is connection, right?
Yeah.
People inherently need to be connected to other people. We are social creatures. We don't do well in isolation. You see so many, like even going back to prison, there were so many suicide attempts and completed suicides that happened while people were in segregation, right? You throw somebody in a hole, and so there's been law, some laws certainly around the country have changed around how long you can keep,
Sure. Yeah.
somebody in
And
isolation.
it's weird to think about. There's a legal threshold for that, but at a certain point, it's like just part of human necessity. That
Right.
you need social contact.
Right, absolutely. And so our youth line, they're just tremendous. So our youth line offers peer-to-peer support services. So when young people get out of school, they'll come down to our office and volunteer on the youth line for between 4 p.m. and 10 p.m. And
Wow.
so a young person, we know young people are more apt to talk to young people than us old people,
It's
right?
true.
So these are young people who have gone through their own struggles around suicidal ideation or self-harm or addiction or whatever the case. And they're doing much better today, obviously. And now they support their peers. And so they call in and get that support. But our youth line goes around and goes into schools and things like that. And the loneliness is always brought up. We talk about different risk factors and then protective factors. And the protective factors are always going to include social connection and social belonging. And, if you're a BIPOC person, then, cultural connection and things like that.
Yeah.
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 And that's Lines for Life.
Yep.
thing?
Lines
Okay.
for Life.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's definitely a huge. I don't know if I might be. I know there's a lot of phrasing around the male loneliness epidemic. I think it's just a loneliness epidemic
Well,
in
that's
general.
such a problem.
Yeah.
I mean,
But yeah, I don't know. I look at all that as like post-COVID problems, and it's pretty bad.
I-
But that's great that you
I've
guys
heard
offer
this joke
that.
all the
Yeah.
time that it's like Jesus' greatest miracle was being a 30-year-old man and having friends. Like, I mean, it is hard, right? It's
Sure.
particularly hard for men.
Well, yeah, they what was that? I just saw a thing this week. Maybe I'll put the headline up here. It's funny, but I thought it was kind of cool that they're having like these like, it sounds weird when I say this, but they're having like these like adult sleepovers to make friends with people.
Yeah,
now.
I've heard of that as well. Yeah.
That sounds like a little
It sounds
much
a little
for me, but
it sounds a little sus when I say it, but
sure they are.
people got to meet people.
It's called a polyamorous community.
There you go.
Yeah. I wanted to mention too, like we were talking a little before about you just went on a Montana / where else did you go? We went to
Man,
Wyoming
so before I got out, I told myself when I get out of prison, I am going to take at least 2 vacations a year.
because I was just thinking about you, like
Wow.
the concept
Yeah.
of travel must
Yeah.
be so liberating.
When
right?
before I went to prison, I had only ever been in North and Northeast Portland.
Yeah.
Operated within a 12, 15 block radius.
Yeah.
Right. We went to Canada when I was 7 years old one time to the expo. So I just hadn't seen the world. And so when I got out, I made it a point that I was going to travel at least twice a year.
Yeah, you
I've
went to
done
Africa
that.
too,
I
right?
went to Africa in November. We went to Zanzibar. I've been to the Bahamas twice. I've been to Honduras. I've been to Mexico. I've been to numerous states, probably about 15 states now.
Wow.
But yeah, we just went to was just in Yellowstone. So we started off in Montana, flew into Billings, took the Beartooth Highway down through Montana, very scenic route. A lot of places you can pull off and pull over and kind of just view the mountains. And there was some and just to learn about the history, like they had talked about like how the Native Americans came right through this road.
Yeah.
And the trying to flee the American army and things like that. And so it was just incredible. And then we went to Cody, Wyoming for a couple days. They do 90 rodeos in 90 days. It is such a thing in Cody, Wyoming.
Seems like impossible.
And
That's
they are
crazy.
boldly proud of their conservatism.
Yeah.
Like I was at the rodeo and they were talking about like the Epstein files
What a culture shock for you
and
coming
oh my
from
God.
here.
They were like, we're around here. We don't take a knee for the flag. We stand for the flag. And like, I mean, it was,
Yeah.
I'm like, who's even talking about that now?
That's Wyoming?
Like, yeah, that was in Wyoming.
Okay, I was gonna
Cody,
say, that
Wyoming.
sounds more like Wyoming.
That was Cody, Wyoming. Did horseback riding. And then we were in Yellowstone for 3 days.
Okay.
So
I think didn't I see the thing you were like on a raft in the river too?
yeah, so we were on the Yellowstone River.
That's fun, yeah.
We did a little whitewater rafting. It wasn't the whitewater rafting where like
There's
you're
rapids
just
and-
getting rapids
Yeah.
with waves and getting
You're terrified.
It was more of like the scenic, calm
Okay.
Yeah,
route.
that's my kind.
Yeah.
I don't like the Central Oregon rafting. Have you done that?
I have not.
Oh, I don't
That's my
recommend
first time going rafting.
That's a good way
Okay.
to start.
Yeah. But it was awesome. We saw like 3 or 4 elk just crossing through the river, right? I mean, a ton of bison. Saw some mountain goats. Saw 1 moose. The moose are very scarce. There's only 200 moose in the whole 2.1 million acres in Yellowstone.
Damn.
Yeah, 200. Didn't get to see
They're
any
like
grizzly
endangered
bears.
up there.
They must be.
Huh.
They must be. But the scenery alone was just so breathtaking. Like everywhere you go, you just want to take pictures.
Yeah. It's like a
Um,
landscape.
Yeah, we went to
portrait or-
Morning Glory, the really famous geyser. You see it in pictures. It's rainbow colors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we went there, and then we went to Old Faithful, and we got to see it erupt because they have the times that it's going to go off, and
you
so
can
they
wait
have
So
there and-
crazy.
Yep,
yeah.
they have benches set up. You can sit there and watch it go off, and so it was just a great time. And I never really like had Yellowstone on my bucket list of places to go, but now that I'm out, like I never had skydiving, and I went skydiving 2 months after
Oh
I
my
got
gosh.
out.
Did
Oh
you?
my
Okay.
gosh.
Yeah, in Malala. Yeah, and I'm afraid of
Wow.
heights.
Yeah.
Like
Wow.
definitely afraid of heights.
Did you do it with the guy on your back?
You have to do it in
You gotta
tandem.
start
You
that
have to
way?
do it. Yeah, you have to do so many tandem jumps before you can do solo.
Have you done it again?
No, I have not,
Do
but
you
I
want
want
to?
to.
Do you
I
really?
want to, but I have
I
no
was-
friends or family that want to do it with me.
I was
So if
just
either you
driving
want to
by
go,
there, I
let's
think.
do it.
No, I literally think was just driving by a place. It was like probably Malala, but I saw it and
Yep.
I was like, I didn't even know they did it right here.
Skydive Oregon.
I might
Yep.
do it though. I have a fear of heights, but I might do it. I
You
don't
should
know.
do it.
Yeah.
It might
You
be
should
good
do
for
it.
that exposure.
That's what people
therapy.
tell me. They're like, it's just
It
you're
is
free
next
falling,
level
it's great.
exhilaration.
Especially with those guys. Those guys are such freaking pros.
Exactly.
Like
And so-
they're like airplane pilots. Or
Exactly.
something.
Yeah, they're steering you, they're guiding you. So it's a total free fall for the first like 12,000 feet
It's
because
like
you're up 14.
several minutes or something.
Yeah, it is.
So
It is.
crazy.
And then the last 2,000, 2,500 feet, you're just gliding because then they, put the parachute up and you're just gliding to the surface. And then they'll like let you, if they're a cool one, they'll let you steer it and stuff like that. And then they'll tell you like when you land, you need to have your feet
Yeah.
or parallel to the ground because they're going to use their feet to like actually stop you. And then they'll tell you when to put your feet down. Then you like run it out. So because a
Okay.
lot of people will break or twist their ankles
Sure,
if they
yeah.
try to use their feet
Mess your
to
legs up.
stop. Yeah.
And you said you never done that?
No, we
I can't
did
picture you-
iFly. We
Oh,
did
the thing in
iFly,
the
which was
tube or
really
whatever?
fun. And
Yeah.
it really hard, actually.
Okay.
Really hard.
Yeah.
But it was fun.
Okay.
I did that with my kids.
Is there any other stuff like all this kind of stuff you want to talk about? Otherwise, I have a bunch of food questions here at the end, or funny questions. But if there's anything else you want to mention, for sure. we can-
Yeah, no, I think I'm just honored to be here, and I'm so happy and gratified to be able to come back full circle, come to Portland, do this work in the community where I took 2 amazing, beautiful, innocent people from, right? And that was a huge blow to the community. And I tell people, we always hear about like paying your debt to society. Like you go to prison, that's paying your debt to society. And really, that's only the down payment, if you will, right? Because by me going to prison or anybody going to prison, there's no guarantee that you're gonna get out and be a changed person, or that you're gonna get out and add something to your community. If I take something from you, well, then you then owe me something. In order to repay that, you owe me something, right? You have to give something back to me. And so going to prison doesn't give anything back; it just removes you. So for me, like I am constantly making payments toward paying back my debt to the Portland community. Where I cause great harm, and I'm able to do it through this work that I'm so passionate about and so important, and hopefully saving lives. And so I take it very seriously, and I'm very honored and privileged to do the work. I really don't feel like I ever work because I love what I do, and I would do it for free if I didn't have bills. So I'm just I couldn't ask for a better life and a better organization to work for and a better community to serve. And so I'm just really humbled and honored to be doing what I'm doing.
For sure.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
doing it.
There's a
course.
ton of great work in there.
Thank
for
you.
sure.
And there is a shortage. Like you
I
said,
agree.
there's just not a lot of people doing what you do.
Yeah.
Okay, a bunch of these questions. I thought I added 2 new ones here. Oh yeah, I did. This one's kind of generic and boring. I feel bad even asking this because this is like I don't know, one of those email questions.
Well, you have to ask it now.
But do you have a pet peeve, something that just drives you crazy? Like I don't know. I guess this is the opposite of that, but I was thinking about this last night. I always told people this, and it bugs them so much that I most of the time sleep with socks on, and it gives people like the ick. They get grossed
I do
out.
as well. I sleep with
well,
socks on as well. Yeah, it feels weird to not have socks on. Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I start that way.
Okay.
I always start
and then you
that
take
way.
them off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
I think that's other people's pet peeve.
It
I
is.
guess,
Yeah, I think it's other people's.
Yeah,
Yes,
clearly.
it's not us.
We don't
it's
have that
them.
problem.
That's right. That's right.
What about you? Is there a pet peeve you have?
I mean, I don't
Probably have a lot of
like
them.
smoking makes me crazy because I grew up with it. That was my parents.
Cigarettes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I just like with them like hotboxing us in the car constantly. And so now and it's not really anywhere anymore, really, but it
Well,
kind of
you get more attuned to it because I smoked for like 10 years and I don't anymore. But now when I smell, I'm like, it just bugs me because I, don't smoke anymore. But
I'll tell you a pet peeve that just irks me. Is when people like after they've eaten, then they just start sucking their teeth.
yeah,
Like just
I know a
sucking
couple
the crap
people
out
like
of their
that,
teeth.
yeah.
And I'm
That
like,
sounds
get some
awful.
freaking floss.
Yeah.
Like
because you
seriously.
can hear that noise.
Oh my
and-
God.
yeah.
Just
Well,
go
you might
on
have
and on and on. So
There's I wish I Google it, I guess, but there's a condition that people who, if you can hear eating noises, there's like a name for that. And
really,
like a fear, I guess. I don't know, but some people have that.
maybe I need to look into that.
Does
Yeah.
sound
But I agree
really
that's
unpleasant to
not
listen to.
appealing. It kind of maybe goes along with your Montana trip thing, but is there animal or creature you're most afraid of?
Yes, I would definitely say a grizzly bear.
For sure. Yeah.
And for some reason, alligators.
Oh yeah.
Well, they
I
are
do
scary.
not
It's like
want to get close
3
to an
seconds.
alligator.
Yeah.
You see so many like these, handlers just wrapping them up and tying them and like closing. I'm like, oh my God, no way.
Yeah, I
no
think
way.
There's been a couple in like the Disney Florida.
Oh,
things.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's kind of.
They'll end up in your backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they're everywhere in Florida.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What about you? Do you have
A fear? Oh, an animal fear? A
animal or
specific animal
creature?
fear?
Yeah. That you're most afraid of.
well,
Like I thought of this because this probably happened twice in this house since I lived here. But I woke up the other day and I'm not kidding. It's one of those like biggest spider I've ever seen. Like,
Oh,
like one like
man.
this.
we have
Oh,
those.
no.
We have those.
And
at home.
what I
Yeah.
do is I get the vacuum and I get them in the container
Ooh,
and then I'll put them
Then you
outside or
can't
kill
do
them
it.
or something.
You put them
But
outside.
this one I was generous and I took it because I don't know if the vacuum kills it or not. So I came
Oh.
back later and it was in there and it was alive. So I just took it out there. I was being nice, I guess. But
Right.
what is
it's
there?
it's a full kill policy at our house.
I'm sure. I'm
So
sure.
it's an
Green light.
immediate. There's
Sometimes it's a logistical
mercy.
issue, and this was like way up. So I was like, "There's no way I can smack it." So I had the wand from the.
No, we have. I
vacuum.
mean, I'm expected to do all of it, and we have like I have my go-to chair that I stand on, and I was actually at a dinner the other night, and I got a text from my 13-year-old that was
Spider
you
alert?
need to call like hell no, you need to call an exterminator, videotaping some, and it was
For one bug.
weirdly big. It was weirdly, and I was like, well, I'm not there, so you're gonna have to just kill it. I mean, people don't know this. I had to learn this the hard way. Exterminators do not kill. I mean, spiders have to be killed on site. They're not like ants where they have a nest and they
Right,
bring
it's
it
like
back.
headquarters.
So you
or
have to
whatever.
kill them all on site.
Take them out.
Yeah,
one
you have to
sweep.
take them out.
It's like
but I
arachnophobia.
feel like I've gotten over that fear. I don't love reptiles. I can
Oh, yeah.
I can do
We were
it,
talking about
Yeah.
those the other day. Yeah.
but I don't love reptiles, and I don't.
Okay.
I think gators and crocs are scary, but they don't. I've been on one of the tours in the boat or whatever, and I can do that. Okay, so maybe that's not the scariest thing, but I really for whatever it's like bees and wasps because
yeah.
I've never been stung, and I just it looks so painful. I've seen so
Yeah.
many people be
I
stung.
remember it's one of those things that you don't know until it happens as a kid. But I remember one of the first time I got stung by a yellow jacket in my head at my grandma's house
Ooh.
in New Jersey.
Oh
but
my
it's
God.
but before you know that as a kid, you're just like, oh, it's just a bug. Like you don't care, But
Yeah.
let's see here. Do you like Doritos?
I love Doritos. That's
You
my
have
favorite chip.
So
Do you have a
good.
favorite
Ranch.
A Cool Ranch?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you like crunchy or smooth peanut butter? Or maybe you don't like peanut butter.
I do like peanut butter. I would go with crunchy over creamy.
Okay.
What about
I
oil?
like crunchy.
What's
Oil,
that?
stir or no stir?
What is it?
With the oil, you know, the
Oh
stir.
yeah, no oil.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
no. I
yeah.
love peanut butter and banana sandwiches.
So
Oh,
good.
those are the best.
That's very
Those are
Elvis.
the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
Uh,
Do you fry them
I don't. I probably should though.
in butter?
I probably
Yeah,
should.
You should.
At least once.
What do you do? Toaster oven?
I don't. I just go straight
Put it
up
on there,
plain
yeah.
white bread.
Oh, okay.
And,
Yeah. Well, also good. I
Yeah.
mean, you can't go wrong, really.
Yeah,
Whatever
yeah.
your variation is.
You just assume it's toasted.
I did. Yeah. Yeah, right.
No, toast is good. Let's see here. Do you have a favorite type of French fry? Do you like crinkle cut, regular cut, curly fry?
I like shoestring fries.
Okay.
Yeah. And I go with McDonald's fries over Burger
So
King.
good.
Although
They're
Burger
both
King has
good.
gotten
They're
a lot
both
better.
good,
They've
yeah.
gotten a lot
Have they?
from when I was a kid. Everybody used to go like you go to Burger King, get your Whopper, then you go to McDonald's, get your
Right.
fries.
Yeah.
But now Burger King, their fries
Yeah.
are not bad.
They had a big
Not
like.
bad.
I'm trying to remember when it was, like 2009 or something. They did a whole like they brought out the new fry, and it is a lot better.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite fast food at all?
I like.
Are you a healthy eater generally? Or?
I try to be healthy, but I do like fast food. I
Yeah.
love Popeye's chicken sandwiches.
Oh, yeah.
I mean that's like that's
Yeah.
yeah. Popeye's chicken sandwiches, and then Dave's Hot Chicken. They just put one out where we
really?
live.
Okay.
Yeah, Dave's Hot Chicken. And so when I grew up, we never had hot food, so I just didn't like hot food. But when I was in prison, like that's all the guy like when the guys make spreads,
Yeah.
because we do spreads for like birthdays and like Christmas. Like the guys will have a whole bunch of food out, and so everybody uses freaking picante sauce, and so like all the food is hot. So I just like slowly acclimated to like eating, and now I prefer hot over mild. So
I like hot stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny.
What do you think of
I was just
Chick-fil-A?
You know what? My brother and I were just talking about this the other day. I don't know what the hype is about. I don't know what
Yeah.
they put a new
It's a team
Chick-fil-A
thing.
where I live, and literally they had policemen out there for like the
I
first
know.
2 weeks because the
Yeah.
lines were crazy.
Yeah, the lines are kind of.
I
And-
don't get it.
And so we went one day, and I had a chicken sandwich and some fries, and I was like, I am so
Underwhelmed.
underwhelmed.
Yeah.
Like this is crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I am not a fan.
Well, especially now, there's a lot of other places with
What
chicken
about
sandwiches.
Cane's?
That are good. Yeah.
I've never had Cane's.
If you do,
Are they in
contact
Portland?
me and let me
Yeah,
know.
there's-
It's in the mall. It's
Oh,
a
okay.
Painter place.
There's also one
Okay.
in Vancouver now, but I've never been.
If
either.
you go for it, let me know what you think, because I think so far it's the best fried chicken
Really?
I've ever had. Yeah, it's better than
Over Popeyes?
It's well, yeah. I think for me,
Okay.
I think it's better than anything I've had in Tennessee. It's better than anything I've had in like Texas or
Really?
or the South. But it's from there. I mean, Cane's is Southern, but it's kind of like Dave's Hot Chicken stuff. But it is to me, it's weirdly good.
Okay.
But there
need
is
to
a
check
lot of
it out.
hype about it.
Okay.
So I don't want to oversell it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's definitely another teen thing like the Chick-fil-A. There is a Cane's craze.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I will
But it is
find
at
out.
the mall. It is at the mall in the food court.
'Cause I make sure I get
Downtown.
whatever food is like local to whatever area I'm in. Like I make sure that like when I was in Wyoming, I'm like what are y'all known for? Like
don't they have what is that place called? Something John's. It's like Potato John's or something. I don't know. Somebody told me they have, and it's I don't know. It's kind of like a just American food, but they have these little potato medallion things. That's how I found out about it.
okay.
I can't remember the name of that place, but yeah, I think it's in Montana area.
So
I don't know.
Okay.
if you were gonna tell somebody
What is that?
what is our fast food? If you're gonna tell somebody what our thing is, what is it? Is it like what
Burger. People always bring up
Burgerville.
Burger.
Is it
Portland, you
Burgerville?
mean?
Yeah.
Sure, Burgerville works. Fast food, I mean, I don't and that's
We
the
don't
thing.
really
like
have a regional thing,
I'm
do
still
we?
I'm still I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, for us growing up, it was just always Popeyes. There was only 2 Popeyes. Like people would come from literally Seattle to come to. There was only
Really?
2 Popeyes in Northeast Portland. One up on Ainsworth and one down going toward the Lloyd Center, and those are the only 2 in the whole state.
You know, there's a new one in Southeast now.
Is there?
Yeah.
I know
Oh,
that
yeah.
they're
It's
now
right on
everywhere.
brand.
They're now everywhere,
Yeah.
but yeah.
I used to go to the MLK one all the time, but and when you mentioned it earlier, the place is called Taco John's, by the way. But
Oh, Taco John's.
have you
Yeah,
heard of
I've
that?
of it.
Yeah.
I've heard of it.
I really want to do this every year. This comes up around Thanksgiving, but Popeyes sells a Thanksgiving turkey.
Oh,
And you can get it, either pick it up at a Popeyes
my
or they'll
gosh.
ship it to
That
you.
sounds like so much
And I'm
fun.
like, every year I'm
I
trying
love
to get
that.
people to
Wow.
get in on it and like
Yeah.
split it because I want to get it.
I would love to try that
Yeah.
for sure.
So shout out to the
Yeah.
turkey. I'll put a photo of that up. But,
yeah.
That's what you're bringing this year.
That's right. That's right.
Did you? I always give people a chance. Did you have a good? It doesn't even have to be here, but like a restaurant or just a business you want to shout out that you had a good experience at recently. It could be in Pennsylvania too. I don't care wherever it is, but
Yeah.
or Montana maybe. I don't know.
I really love the barbecue place in Montana. I wish I knew the name of
Oh,
it.
wow.
It was some really good barbecue, as well as in St. Louis when I was there. They get down
Oh,
in
I
St.
bet.
Louis
I've
Yeah.
heard
with the
St. Louis
brisket.
has good.
Oh my God, they
Yeah.
get down. They definitely get down.
Well, if you send it to me later, I'll put a thing
Okay.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try to find that for
Okay.
sure. For sure.
What about you? Any new spots you've been to? Before we wrap it up here.
I went, it's not local, but I went to that. I think it's the one place we have that's local. It's in Hillsborough. It's called Jolly Bee.
You went?
Yeah.
Okay.
We made the trek
It's
out
the
there.
Filipino fast
Yes.
food. Yeah.
And apparently it was Anthony Bourdain's favorite.
I wouldn't want to
fast
go for
food.
years. I want to try the spaghetti.
Okay. I did not try the spaghetti, but what I had was extremely underwhelming.
Chicken?
So next time I'll have to try it. Yeah. It was chicken and French fries. And then
Okay.
it was fine. But they're supposed to be known for this chicken.
I've heard of the chicken. Yeah, it's part
And
of the.
I'm interested, if you ever make the trek out there, I'm interested in because you, much like my household, you seem like a real fried chicken connoisseur.
Yeah.
And if you make the trek out to Jollibee, I'm interested to hear from a fan because we were sort of like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, but now what do you know about the spaghetti? How is it different than any other spaghetti?
Well, I
Is
just
that why it's appealing?
I found out about years ago. So I was like, "There's
They
a
do
fast food
spaghetti.
spaghetti."
Yes.
This is gonna sound crazy, but I've wanted a fast food sushi for a long time. That sounds like a disaster, I know, but just the concept of spaghetti in a drive-through—that's the reason I wanted to go.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Also sounds maybe
That's
like
what
a
I'm going to
disaster.
try next time if we ever make the trek
I
out.
love sushi.
I think they put.
Oh, it's so good.
I had never had sushi before I got out of prison. I had never had lobster before I got out of prison.
Wow, yeah.
So like all these things were just new to
Just
me.
trying it all.
Well,
and
none
I
of it
love
was a
sushi.
thing here. Like
Yeah.
growing up, nobody knew what that was.
Right.
Like it was just not a thing. It wasn't a phenomenon that it like hit yet.
Right.
It felt like,
Right.
right? And so when you got out, it was probably everywhere.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Like, what is this
Definitely.
with the raw fish.
Definitely. Yeah.
What do you order? What do you like?
When I order sushi,
Mhm.
Roll? What
I
type of
started with
roll?
the California roll. I want to say
Yeah,
I like the
that's good
tempura,
intro. Mhm.
tempura roll. I've been trying to venture out, and so I'll go with both the cooked, the fried, as well as the raw fish. Because you think, and I had escargot on the cruise ship for the first time, and I'd always think, oh, snails, I'm not gonna eat a
Yeah.
snail, and I am so addicted. Like
Right.
it is, if you can
So
get over
funny.
the fact that you're eating a snail
Yeah.
and just like the texture and the taste and the butter and oh my god, so good,
I think
so
I tried
good.
them once, maybe in France, but I don't remember it. But I should try them again.
So
You're
good.
making me want to try them again.
Yeah, I just want to
Um,
try new things and do new things, and because I can,
Yeah.
right? And I couldn't for so long. So
Yeah,
that's it.
The kinds of things we all take for granted.
Absolutely.
That's a good. I'm curious. Do you have a favorite sushi roll? I should start asking that actually.
I'm partial to the rainbow roll.
I've had that as well. Yeah.
I have always like the first thing I want to get is the unagi eel. Have you ever had that?
Mhm.
It's so good. I'm thinking about it.
It
right
is
now.
good.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, Martin, thanks so much. You guys check out this book for sure.
Thank you for coming.
Thank
You
you.
can get it on Amazon, right? And
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon.
yeah, check it out. I really enjoyed this conversation. You're always welcome back. Yeah, thanks so much for coming today.
Thank y'all for having me. This was such an honor. Y'all do incredible work and giving voices to folks who don't often are not able to have a voice or think differently. And so I just really appreciate how y'all go about your business. And so thanks for having me.
For sure. Actually, before I forget, if like people actually need to reach you for substance abuse problems?
Sure. Yeah. You can either contact me through my website, which is martinlockett.com, or I am on one social media platform, which is Instagram at Martin L. Lockett.
Okay.
And you're very active on there. I mean,
I try to be.
people, if they want a resource or just an educational resource to provide to people, it's a great I recommend it to people all the time. It's a great resource
Yeah.
about here's somebody in recovery who talks very frankly about recovery.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely I connect folks to resources all the time, and I do recovery coaching on the side as well. So that's
Oh, you do? Okay.
yeah. So yeah, I'm here to help. If anybody who's looking to get clean or sober curious or whatever has questions, I'm accessible and not hard to find, and would be more than happy to help. So definitely reach out.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah, reach out to Martin, and thanks again for coming.
Thank you.